Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lion, the Way, and the War, where we discuss Jesus, his church, and the spiritual battle that surrounds us all. My name is Craig Allison, and I will be your host. All right, joining me on today's episode is Christian Turner from Chattanooga, Tennessee, right here in Chattanooga. Christian is a nursing major. He is starting his junior year in college at Chattanooga State. And Christian loves hanging out with friends, playing music, running, and drinking LaCroix. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. One of the things Christian also enjoys is small group Bible studies. Oh my goodness, we're off to a great start. Christian, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Look, you sent me that text, but I don't know if that was a typo or what is LaCroix? What is that?
LaCroix. It's
whatever you enjoy drinking. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know if I should put it in here or not.
No, LaCroix is just sparkling water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you now. Not just regular water though. It has to be sparkling.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's so many different flavors.
Do you not like just plain water?
I love plain water, but when it's carbonated, it's really good.
So after you enjoy running too. So after you go for a run, you get back. Are you gonna pick up a LaCroix or a regular water?
Definitely a LaCroix. Yeah.
So the carbonation after you're hot and been running and everything, you like the carbonation better than just good old plain water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So nursing major.
Mm-hmm.
Why nursing?
When I was in high school, I took human biology, and that was like the subject that fascinated me the most. That one really got me, and it kind of stuck with me. Even after I took it in my freshman year of high school, I was just always fascinated with how the human body functions. And so, going into nursing / medical field, anything there, I thought that's what I wanted to aim for and help people too.
It has nothing to do with the fact that 95% of nurses are females.
No, absolutely not. And I did know that going into it. But that's not the reason.
Well, okay, so why do you know why it's such a predominantly female occupation? Why aren't there more men as nurses?
I guess when it comes to medical field stuff, the men usually handle the more mechanical parts of the medical field. So surgery or anesthesia or things like that. That'd be my first guess. And then women just have traditionally always been a part of, they're the nurses. They're the ones taking care of people. And
your dad, he pushes drugs for an occupation, right?
Yeah.
He's the drug pusher.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The technical name is an anesthesiologist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any interest in going that direction at some point, or are you're happy to be doing the nursing thing?
I think eventually I'll probably look into being a CRNA.
Okay.
I think that's a really, really, really cool job that he does.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you too about one of your things that you really said you enjoyed a lot was small group Bible studies. Is it the camaraderie there? What's the attraction there for small group Bible studies?
So trying to think of a really good example. Over the summer, when all the students weren't here yet, we had some of the essays, of course, and then
hang on a second. For those listening, when you say essay, you mean a student ambassador. You're one of the student ambassadors at the Christian Student Center at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. So for those listening, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have just whoever was in town as far as UTC or Chat State students go that go to the student center, or student ambassadors that were in town at the time. There's my birthday is like at the beginning of August, which is right before the school semester starts.
Right.
And usually before it starts, or maybe even some in the school year, we'll have like a lot of people over just to kind of hang out and stuff. Whether it's like for my birthday or just like any hangout time. But this year, I thought it'd be really cool just to like have a Bible study, not necessarily like over a specific topic. Let's just pick like a specific book or a chapter and just read through it, and then like pick parts and dissect it and understand what it's saying, what it's teaching us. And doing that with students, with friends and family, that's always just been like a really, really good time. It's always something that gives me joy, because like studying the Bible with your best friends is just a great time.
Yeah.
It's just a great time.
So speaking of small groups, what do you see as what do you see the importance of small groups playing in the future of the church, specifically for your age demographic? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, how important are small groups for the future of the church, specifically as it relates to the college age demographic?
I think small groups are very crucial. Just coming from experience, like being a small group leader at the student center, at the Christian Student Center, something that it's allowed me to do is build relationships with guys that I don't know if I'd have like the same relationship with them otherwise. Building relationships, and it's not necessarily like even the topics that we're going over. It's just talking about different things in life, and whether it's goofy or stupid or like good and bad, it's just like growing those relationships in a small group with guys or girls in that leads to deeper conversations as you grow closer in relationship.
Yeah. So small groups for our church at Central Church of Christ is relatively new. We've only been doing small groups for several years, and really that was kind of a response to COVID, and after things began to get back on track, after folks started coming back, we realized that we needed to pivot and utilize small groups in a way that first of all, we never had small groups to begin with, but incorporating small groups as part of our relationship building and becoming closer with one another in the church. And so what I've noticed, because I was never part of a small group before, what I've noticed is that I was able to become much more closer and get to know people that attended my church in a way, because I'm in their homes and they're in my homes. So I'm getting to know them and building relationships in a way that had never been possible before. And so for me, as coming from an older demographic, I was okay with that, and that was like that filled a piece that I wasn't even aware was really missing as far as my connection with church, and then growing my knowledge and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm curious from a college perspective, because you're right you've started the downhill slope of your college career as a junior. Is that something that college students are looking for in churches, that is to be part of small groups, or is it like awkward, or like I don't really want to go to an old person's house, or like how do you feel about that whole thing?
I think it can be like challenging, especially at first, getting plugged in, because it's like you go to someone's house and you have no idea who they are, right, or whatever, and it's like something completely brand new to you. But when you establish those relationships, those friendships, and then you have like a solid friend group, it's like, okay, I trust these people, and I think I can really get involved because this is like a foundation, I guess, for me. I don't know how else to put it, but it's like once that relationship with that person is established and you start inviting them to more things and they start coming to more things and getting plugged in with more things, I think that's where it really starts. Really starts. And they establish like a bond of trust. Like there's trust there.
Yeah. I certainly, I saw that amongst your peer group, just like from a singular demographic at the Christian Student Center, because it's exclusively for college students. So you've got small groups that you do Bible studies with among your peer group. But having that as part of the church where you attend, so now you've got intergenerational connections where you're a part of a small group that may have a high school or elementary school person in it with their mom and dad to a person who's retired, all part of the same small group. So speak to the importance of that in your opinion, as a church member, not as a member of the Student Center, but as a member of a church.
Yeah. I think that's very, for me, like when I was growing up, I went to Signal Mountain Church of Christ, and that was something that we did pretty much every week. They'd mix up the small groups that they had there, and I grew up around like a lot of different age people. So like you had like mom and dad, and then like people their age.
Yeah.
Then you had like older people, and then you had like toddlers, and then you had just like everyone was all in one room studying the Bible together and also growing relationships at the same time. For me, I think that was definitely awesome because I was able to see things and learn things that really impacted like who I am today.
Yeah.
And also, I had another thing I was going to say, but I just completely forgot.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about is, if you're a person who's wanting to bring the unchurched, people who don't know Jesus, people who don't have that relationship, do small groups serve as a better vehicle to be a disciple to somebody else, as opposed to not having any small groups in your church at all? Because it's like, hey, come with me. We've got dinner at my house tonight. We're doing a small group or Bible study. It's very laid back. It's very like non-confrontational and not scary at all or whatever. Versus, okay, so you have that versus, hey, you want to come to church with me next Sunday? And I don't know how that translates for a college student, but I know for me, it's a lot easier and less intimidating to be invited to like a small group where I already know a couple people or maybe have a relationship with somebody that's inviting me versus being invited to a church where there's 200-300 people and I don't know anybody there and it's like what to expect or whatever. So those are the two. One of the benefits that I have found with small groups is the evangelistic tool that it provides you. Does that translate to the college students?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean we meet up at Harrison Gibbs' house every Sunday evening for a small group, and that's been awesome. It's been really good. That's where a lot of those relationships take place because not only are we doing a little small group and study together, we're also bonding while we're playing pool or playing darts or drinking LaCroix there. Like there's always something different.
Got to have that LaCroix.
Got to. It's good stuff. He has a fridge full of them, dude. It's awesome.
Is that where you got introduced to LaCroix? Was it Harrison Gibbs?
No.
Who is the campus minister at the Christian Student Center?
Mm-hmm.
No, you had it before then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is he stocking his fridge with LaCroix for you specifically?
It's a good question. I feel like I have to ask him every time because if I just take one, then he might call me out on it. So I have to ask every time.
Gotcha. Okay. what has been the biggest challenge to your faith overall? Okay, overall, like your life experience to this date, but also as a college student. And it could be the same thing, could be the same challenge. But if not, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. What's been your biggest challenge to your faith overall, but also what has been your biggest challenge to your faith as a college student?
I think the biggest challenge for me personally has been worrying about either the future and what other people think of me. That's been a big one because I'm a big time people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like do whatever I can to not have any conflict.
Yeah.
And when conflict does arise, it's like I'm intimidated or I'm a little hesitant to confront that conflict.
Okay. Does that cross over into a challenge to your faith, or is there something else? What's been the biggest challenge to your faith?
Yeah, I would say that's right now anyway. That's what I can think of is the biggest challenge to my faith, because it can cause me to get so worried and anxious about things that really, when you in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't matter a whole lot to me anyway.
I think it's natural though to want to have like, what's going to be my next step? Like, what's waiting for me in the future? And I know, if I put in the top 3 things that I talked to college students about as a campus minister, it was I'm worried about my future. Am I gonna find a spouse? Am I gonna have a decent job? Am I even gonna have a job? Those things seem to worry college students more than most things. So what's the solution to that? How do we overcome that? How do you overcome it? How do you deal with it?
Something that I'll say to myself to remind myself, just take it a day at a time. Just do what you can today.
Yeah.
That tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so just do what you can today. And when you go to bed, maybe do some self-reflection and see, like, did I do the best I could do today?
Yeah. I know it's interesting that we're talking about that specifically, because I know that one of the past, well, more than just one, but when I was talking to those who really were struggling with that, and it was impacting their faith, and we started thinking about, what are things we can do? They went back to their small group and said, for them, part of the solution was being to rely on their other small group people that they had built a relationship with, and working through that, because it was like, it's not like I'm not going to know tomorrow what God has in store for me, but it made me feel better knowing that I wasn't alone in that when I went to my small group and, or a person who was mentoring me or whatever, they were struggling with the same thing I was. And it gave me some peace just knowing that, I'm not the only one struggling with this. So not to keep coming back to small groups, but as we've been talking about that's, I think one of the things that came to light. And I don't know if you've experienced any of that as far as small groups and helping with your faith challenge or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So here's one of the questions I'm asking all of the student ambassadors. I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcast with them, but if you have, try not to copy their answers.
Yeah,
well, I mean, if it's the same, it's the same. What can you do? As a college student, why do you think so many college students are leaving the church when they leave home?
I think a lot of it, it could be like, the way that they grew up.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Like, maybe church is just like a Sunday, Wednesday thing. And, maybe they went because their mom and dad made them.
Yeah.
Or it depends on the circumstance, I guess. But I also think, like, I remember when I went to college for the first time, I was at Bryan College, and I like stayed there. I didn't commute or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on campus there. And I do remember like feeling that sense of freedom. Like, oh man, like I'm not at my house anymore.
I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, and I don't have to.
There are no rules.
Exactly. Like I didn't have to go to church if I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so I think that definitely that sense of freedom can be, because it's right there. It's like, oh wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like the whole world is at my fingertips, and it's like I don't have to like go by any rules anymore or anything like that.
Yeah, okay. So you bring up an interesting point. We haven't really talked about this in any of the other interviews that I've done, which is the foundation that's established as far as your religious belief system at home and how that gets translated when a kid leaves home and goes to college for the first time. For the person who is like, oh man, I'm free. I have no rules. I don't have to go to church if I don't want to. I get it, but there's something that has been missed because they're viewing it in terms of a have to. I'm obligated to do this. I have to get up on Sunday morning and go to church. Somewhere along the way, that became like their thinking while they were at home, like, got to get up. It's Sunday morning, got to go do this. And I don't think that that's a conversation that takes place in their mind when they leave home if they have been raised to view church in a way that's not an obligation. It's like, I can't wait until Sunday when I can go and worship God.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this big disconnect.
Right.
And I think the majority of our young people are going through a system that doesn't really try to create a space where young people look at going to church as, man, this is such a privilege. I get to do this. I can't wait until next Sunday when I go get to worship my God, my Creator. Because then when they go off to college, it's not even a thought of oh, I have all this freedom and I can do what I want. I don't have to get up and go to church on Sunday. It's like, man, looking at their watch, when is Sunday going to be here? Mm-hmm. I can't wait to go, meet new people and worship in this, whatever. So what's going on? Like what's happening before kids get to college where that's not taking place? What's the system look like, I guess,
mm-hmm.
that's creating that?
I think definitely coming from personal experience, mainly just like, I think it depends on like who you surround yourself with. I think a lot of it can be like that. For me personally, like when I was growing up, everyone that I grew up around, wanted that. They wanted to go to church. They wanted to worship. They wanted to have the Bible studies and all of the deep conversations and worship Jesus together. Definitely surrounding yourself with those people and having a like mindset in those things is definitely key. But I also do think that I don't know. I think also just simply the opposite is true. If you surround yourself with people that aren't like have that mindset,
right,
then it could also go the other way.
Yeah. So there's a lot of intentionality that needs to be behind it. It's like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about when you said environment, like who you choose to surround yourself with. Even for a young person who, and let's be totally honest. I think anybody can say there are some Sunday mornings when you wake up and you're like, man, Like even if you are totally in love with God, and you know that's like a huge your number one value in life is your Maker, your Creator, to worship God. That's that's not going to change. I mean, human nature. Sometimes you're just tired, and you wake up on Sunday morning and you're like, I'd really like to stay in bed this morning, right? So I mean, I get that. We're all like that. And especially for the college student who now has that taste of freedom where they can actually make that decision, where they're not being told or held accountable by their parent. Well, now what you've said becomes really, really important, because if you have chosen to be intentional about surrounding yourself with people who are more prone to not getting up and going, as opposed to surrounding yourself with people that are probably going to, text you or say, hey man, are you up? Are you going to church? That's a huge difference. It makes a big, big difference.
Right.
And it's like that first Sunday you miss, you feel really guilty about it. But then that second Sunday becomes a little bit easier. And then that third Sunday you miss, it's even more easy, and you don't begin to feel as guilty. And then before you know it, you haven't been to church in 6 months, and maybe you're being pulled into a whole different crowd, a whole different environment.
Right.
You're on your own now. Have you had to do your own laundry yet?
Oh yeah.
So like if you're washing a bunch of red towels and you throw a white t-shirt in, what color does your t-shirt come out?
Red.
Yeah. So it's like your environment, you're influenced by your environment more. And I think a lot of people need to understand, especially church leaders and parents who are scratching their heads wondering, why in the world is my child not going to church? I've raised them to go to church or whatever. I think we don't understand just how powerful environment can be, how much it can actually change us, change our colors. I mean, and I say that because I've seen it happen. Some of the strongest Christians I know who have had everything that they need to have, the greatest youth program that you can have, and it's intergenerational, and they're having all of this stuff, and they're connected in their church, and the odds are stacked in their favor to stay in church. But when they get to college, if they don't intentionally put themselves in the right environment, all of that work is pretty much down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that as a college student?
Yeah, I do agree.
Okay. As a college student, then, what are you looking for in a church home while you are away from school?
Wait, while I'm away from school?
Yeah, and I know it's because you're here from Chattanooga. You're going to school in Chattanooga, so you're going to have to put yourself in a different mindset and go. If you had moved to Birmingham, I don't know why I said Birmingham, but wherever, California, pick a place. Pick a place. What would you be looking for in a church home?
Honestly, just a community that, or like a community family, that has a heart for making disciples. Not only that, but also, coming from a college student standpoint, I guess, reaching out, doing activities like the Adopt a Parent program that we have here at the Student Center. It's like,
I think it's funny that you said adopt a parent, because here at the church we call it adopt a student.
Yeah.
Who's adopting who?
It goes both ways, I guess.
Yeah.
But with one of the members here at Central, we went paddleboarding, we went running on trails, we went and ate at restaurants, Yeah. Just really connecting and making a strong effort to connect and build a relationship with college students.
Yeah. You're really honing in on the importance of building relationships with your church family. And you've mentioned that without a relationship, it's hard to have trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's so crucial, I think, especially for keeping college students plugged in, is to have a level of trust with church members, with a small group, whatever it is. Because if you don't trust somebody, if you don't have anybody in your circle that you can trust, who do you go to say, hey, I'm struggling with this? Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing, right? Because we're told confess our sins to one another. Well, I'm not sharing my struggles with anybody if I don't have a good relationship with them and I don't trust them, because who knows what they're going to say about that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm saying all of this to say that the normal picture of church for most people is go to church, worship God, then leave church, go out to eat with your family, and go home. And then when next Sunday rolls around, you do the same thing. Where is the relationship building and the getting plugged into church family in that kind of scenario?
It's very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Because it's only like, what, 2-3 hours out of the week?
If that. Yeah.
Out of 7 days.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that college students then are looking for more than just that?
Yeah. I would say so. Something that, we do at the Christian Student Center, is we're around each other every single day. Yeah. And for us, it's very easy, I would say, just because Central's right across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And so we have easy access to that. Right. But definitely, being there for one another every single day. We're going through our 4 years or however long together, every single day pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so that's where all the, I guess, relationship building, trust building, all of that, that's where all that happens. It's not just one day a week or one thing a week.
And I can attest to the, those that may be skeptical about this whole thing that we're talking about, community and building relationships. I don't live close to the church. I'm in another state. And so, and that sounds, for those that are listening, they're like, wait, what? He's in it borders Tennessee. I'm in Georgia, but average half an hour away and then half an hour back here. So you're talking about an hour of driving. Mm-hmm. And our small group and the folks that we became close with, they were making that trek, many of them college students, out to my house, not just on Sundays, but throughout the week, because I see that there's a thirst for good Christian community, and that's just not going to happen if you do your Sunday morning thing and that's it and you go home. And it wasn't anything that I had to push. It just, it's a hunger, it's a thirst in our current culture today. And so I think some of the things that we're talking about here are kind of highlighting that there's a need for that. And so for church leaders and those that are looking and wondering, how do we get our college students more plugged in? Well, this is how you do it. This is the recipe. And I think you've touched on a lot of those topics that are crucial. Which kind of leads me to this next question. And this is another question that I'm asking all of the college students. What are the things that churches need to be doing to attract and keep college students engaged while they're away from home?
Definitely activities. One thing that's been kind of big at the Christian Student Center right now is the new video game, College Football 25. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm an Alabama fan. Yeah. And so playing that game gets me really into it, super, super excited.
We're going to bleep out when you said Alabama. We're just going to bleep that out.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide. We beat Georgia. That was crazy. But no, simply playing that, because I know that's a really big thing right now. And so just doing different activities, whether it's like a video game, or maybe it's a movie night, or maybe it's ultimate frisbee. Yeah. Doing activities, and over time,
What's the purpose of activities? I mean, because if that's all you ever do, and that's not it's fun to hang out but what's the end goal of doing activities together?
Mm-hmm. Just make new friends. make new friends, start building relationships, build trust.
There it is again. Yeah.
Yeah. I've really hit on that a lot. Like,
no, but I you know, you've kind of built this pyramid. You know, if those that are following and tracking along with this conversation, you've built this pyramid where, you know, at the bottom of it you have activities. I mean, that's just the obvious thing to do. You know, to meet new people is like, hey, come to dinner, come eat food, come play this video game, come play Ultimate Frisbee with us, and you know, we have these things in common. And so that's that bottom of this pyramid. And then by having those activities, it opens up a door to have some conversations and begin building relationships, which is that next step up. Because you can't go straight from activities to trust. You know, the activities enable the relationships to develop. And once you have those relationships that are developed, then you can begin having some trust in the person because you've gotten to know them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you've that next step of the pyramid. So you have that trust that's been established. And once you have trust established, that's when the rubber meets the road. That's when you can say, hey, can we like do a Bible study? Can we talk about Jesus? Can I ask you about like what you feel about like what happens when you die? Mm-hmm. Like, is this it? So then you begin to have like spiritual discussions, which is, you know, coming in, and maybe conversions or maybe somebody that are giving their life to Christ. So those activities are crucial
mm-hmm.
to have that. So I think if you have a church that is just a Sunday morning church, you come in, you go to church, and you go home, there's never any activities that are being offered that are taking into account a young person's desire to have those activities and to have those relationships. We're missing the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've seen that obviously as a student ambassador. So,
right.
Final thoughts. Do you have any comments that any of the stuff that we've talked about that you might want to add to the conversation?
If one ever drinks LaCroix, it is not like TV static. I would never make that connection. It is very good. That's all.
What do you mean TV static? I'm lost in the lingo right now.
Yeah, that's like the only definition I've ever heard for LaCroix. It's like, nah, dude, it tastes like TV static or like battery acid. I'm like, no, dude, that's like
okay.
It's way off. It's way off.
That's a new one for me. TV static. Okay. We always let the guest close out the show with a favorite Bible verse. So do you have one that you would like to read?
Yes. My favorite Bible verse is 1 Corinthians 10, and I guess you could say verses because it's 31 through 33.
Yep.
But it says, "Therefore, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all for the glory of God. Give no offense, either to the Jews or to the Greeks or to the church of God, just as I also please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that they may be saved."
Don't be a jerk. Be a decent person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that basically was saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Be a decent human being.
Do all for the glory of God.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, give us feedback, folks. Share, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. Like it, the like button. Consider being a sponsor of The Line, the Way, and the War. We will plug you if that's your thing. Ministry League is one of our sponsors. Today's episode is going to be sponsored by Central Church of Christ here at 400 Vine Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Come worship with us. Come check us out. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, we're doing that, and we're growing, and people are excited, and we're putting legs onto people's faiths and allowing them to run with their talents and do things that are just absolutely amazing and incredible. So we'd love to have you come check us out and worship with us. 9:30 Bible study, 10:30 is our worship time. So we have one more student ambassador because you're the second to the last. And so if you're listening to this, tune in next week. We're going to have one last student ambassador to interview. I'm excited to talk to her. Until our next podcast of The Lion, the Way, and the War, Love one another, be kind to one another, and remember that the creator of the universe loves you so much that he gave his only son for you. Have a blessed day.